ladies and gentlemen, we've listened to Petey, and he made some pretty good points on his decision. But
this is what happens when I'm in control.
Check out
These are the topics we're going to be dealing with. Write in. I know you're out there.
Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe, here in this great hall of justice, are the most powerful forces of good ever assembled. Dedicated to truth, justice, and peace for all mankind.
Welcome, everybody. This is Maj, and I'm here with my boy Petey, and we are talking about Django Unchained.
No, it's Django versus the Wild Wild West.
I was going to get to that if you give me 2
Sorry.
seconds, bro. Okay, but he got so excited. So we're going to be talking about some controversial aspects of this discussion between Wild Wild West and Django Unchained. I'm going to let my boy Petey go straight into it. Hit him, please.
Now, I know you're saying to yourself, how can I compare the Wild Wild West and Django Unchained?
They're Westerns.
They are Westerns, yeah.
They both have lead black characters.
Yes.
They're both bounty hunters.
There's also buddy films. They're both buddy films.
Yes.
Wow. We're finally hitting some, and then they have a maniacal villain also in the story.
Yes, they do have maniacal villains.
The only difference is that a lot of this takes place using steampunk in Wild Wild West, and in this story takes place on plantations and the whole slave trade, that aspect. So that grounds Django more than the Wild Wild West, where the Wild Wild West deals with the train, deals with stuff that's from the TV show, him being a bounty hunter, that stuff, and it's a little more Hollywood, where it's more, having fun. Django is trying to give you the believable black Western.
It is, but Django also comes from what was that guy from? Django actually comes from an Italian movie director.
Yes.
They have a series of films, one of those Italian spaghetti westerns, basically. And I think Tarantino, he was the one who basically translated this version, putting in Jamie Foxx and handling that particular aspect of the plot.
Well, the other thing is that the Django films, that franchise, which is not a huge franchise, but it introduced us to Django, but he's carrying a coffin with him.
Yeah.
He's a true Western hero. He doesn't have any friends. He's dealing with, and that's the thing.
Well, Schultz is his mentor / you talking about the original or you talking about
original?
Okay,
so original, he comes through, and then he's dealing with the Mexican slave issue, something like that. But he comes through, and it's a dramatic thing because he's got this coffin. He has this mystic to him, and this sort of thing. His girlfriend that he's trying to find, she's got some sort of issue that they struggle with. So there's a lot of visual things I would have loved Django Unchained to have. But the thing is that we got Jamie Foxx, we got I forget the
Quentin Tarantino,
Leonardo DiCaprio.
We got Kerry Washington.
Kerry Washington. But the only Christoph Waltz. That's the other big
Samuel
name. Samuel Jackson. Yeah. But when we go to we have Will Smith in Wild Wild West. We have Kevin Kline, Salma Hayek, and then there's the director of Thor. What's his name again?
Branagh.
Kenneth Branagh. So we got a couple heavyweights as far as actors and whatnot. So this is where the connection goes. The problem that I have is that this is a black exploitation film. Now, Wild Wild West has some elements of black exploitation. In the first scene, he's with Garcelle Bouvier.
Yes.
He's with her in the first scene. The black exploitation heroes are very sexual, very strong characters. So he's getting busy early in the movie.
Right.
Django.
But hold on. Okay. He also gets busy in his TV show too.
What, in
Wild Wild West?
Yeah.
So I mean.
Yeah, that's another good point. But one of the things is that we're talking about just the black exploitation thing. So it's like I think Wild West needs to take another step further, and Salma and Will have to get together as far as black exploitation goes. But this was a Hollywood film. What can you say? We can't say anything. But Tarantino, that's a different story. Now he is Mr. Exploitation. He's done the Asian exploitation. He's done even the Jewish exploitation.
Done the black exploitation.
No, with the black exploitation.
Foxy Brown.
No, Jackie Brown.
Jackie Brown
is the first no on-screen killing or action in the movie. There's nothing on screen that you see.
But they did kill people on that.
He killed, but no one gets killed on screen. What's her name? Bridget Fonda gets pushed to the side off camera, and De Niro shoots her. I don't even know if you see the gun shooting.
Huh.
Black exploitation is what he does in Pulp Fiction, in like that sort of graphic action. And the first one he did, he had Pam Grier. And she's marvelous. She's gorgeous. It's a fun movie, but it has no teeth. Look at Foxy Brown. She's kicking ass. Like it starts off she doesn't. She's smarter than everyone in the movie. That's the difference. In this movie, she's smarter. In Foxy Brown, she kicks ass. She shoots. She does all this stuff. What's the name? Threatens you with a gun, tricks you. You know, you fall. Everyone falls in love with her. And the other problem with Jackie Brown is that the middle scene is in a mall. How freaking boring are they explaining the stuff with Michael Keaton? They're sitting around in the mall drinking like sodas or something like that.
Yeah, but times have changed from when you have the typical black exploitation movies back in the 70s to where you have back when malls were big.
You're going to it and saying they're typical. I'm going in and saying there's some conventions and motifs that you have to hit just like a Western. A man with no past, all that stuff is not cliche. That's the convention. That's the motif. That's what we go into.
Okay, so. I see what you're going right now. So let's see how far you're going to drive this car off the train, off the cliff.
So we got our first issue is that we had to look at black exploitation and the fact that he didn't follow the rules. So the rules, thank you, brought me right back where I needed to be. So the rules are Django is a slave in the first scene.
Yeah.
But the only problem is that the biggest no-no of any movie of a black exploitation is you cannot have a white savior. And this is a German savior. What about the Olympics? There's nothing you can do.
But hold on, I gotta bring you back.
Rain as much as you want.
Okay. Because, yes, the convention says that to a degree. But
not to a degree.
But the question is this a pure black exploitation film or is this something more? Because he's using, if it was a straight up, he wrote this all by himself we would say yes, possibly. But he's taking this from Django.
No, he's not taking it from Django. He's using the Django because he likes the name. The story comes from John Brown. And Quentin Tarantino looks a little like John Brown. I'll have a picture to show the similarities in the two. But Quentin Tarantino told us he was making the abolitionist John Brown story. The abolitionist John Brown had with him the Black Riders.
Right.
One of the dead Black Riders had a letter on him from his enslaved wife saying, please buy me by this time or else I'm going to get sold off. So this is where the romance for Django comes from. So, but he told us he was giving us John Brown. And I'd be happy with John Brown and the Black Riders. But we got Django and we got then we have a white savior. John Brown is an actual person.
Yes.
You know? So it's not.
Who is white?
Yes. So it's not a white savior. He's like, I'm hell-bent on this abolishing slavery, and I'll do it no matter what. And they hung him.
And he wanted to incite a revolt that he thought would span the whole, making the slaves revolt against their masters. But it didn't work out that way, unfortunately. He got beaten and
yes.
Sort of like that. Kept everything. Yes, enough said about that. But the point
what's enough said about it? It's an interesting story.
No, it's an interesting story. But the point I'm trying to get to is, all right, where are you going with this? He didn't do John Brown. He did Django Unchained.
He did Django. He did a black exploitation, so he doesn't need a white savior to teach him how to be a. You cut a whole bunch of the movie. I like the scene of I like the scene of him, but him. The whole point is that he should be alone. He should break from the chains, free himself. have this moment of like Incredible Hulk moment where he beats up everybody and he's on the run.
Okay, got that. But
They're trying to be too smart when it's a black exploitation. He's the hero. He doesn't need to be taught by the white man anything. That's the movie. It's not me. It's not me. What? Wild Wild West, he has no white savior. He already knows what he's doing. He's good at his job, and so that's a point for Wild Wild West.
But the point for Wild Wild West,
that's the only point I can give. And that he got Garcelle Bouvier.
Okay, so I think we need to rewind that, because I think there are two big issues that we're talking about. The time period these movies are taking place in seem to be during for Django Unchained happening during slavery. Okay, which is prior to 1865, 1870, during the war.
This is a good point.
The point for Wild Wild West, if you're talking about the Transcontinental Railroad, that's happening after 1870.
Okay.
And that's happening out west. So definitely the mores are a little bit different, a little laxer. You have a whole thing with black cowboys, which a lot of people don't realize, but there was a whole bunch of black cowboys, and you also have a lot of blacks who went out west. So it was a little different. So I think if you're taking it that way, you can see black bounty hunters that you can look into, and black sheriffs and stuff too. I mean, there are a whole bunch. I'm sorry, I just can't remember. But that is there.
This is a solid point, and a point that should have been brought up when Wild Wild West was coming out. It doesn't help the movie.
It was a bad movie no matter what.
Because it's cartoony, but the fact that he is a marshal or he's a bounty hunter, it works to say that this could happen. They show some animosity. He might have needed to be more respectful to the white people, but that's a part of the black exploitation, that you don't take nothing and you say something back to the man, and it's a movie. That's the whole point.
About Schultz.
No, I'm talking about James West and Wild Wild West. Okay, he had some attitude and this, that, and the other. In Django, they play up to the period, and you can't really speak, and they play that aspect up.
But you have James West and Wild Wild West, if you saw the original show. And James West was like the 007 of the West, okay? So it's a little different. I think...
I'm not trying to be... I'm just talking about the blaxploitation part.
I get the blaxploitation.
It's not the same movie.
I get, but what I'm trying to say is that when I looked at the movie with Wild Wild West, I thought it was a little too campy for me.
Yes.
And one of the things that turned me off, and as opposed to... Don't get me wrong, James West in the Wild Wild West, the TV show, was campy too. But to the degree that they did it with was just a little bit too much, and the steampunk elements was just over the top, So I think it could have been a much better, it could have been a tighter movie if they brought down some of the effects and stuff, and they played a little straighter. Now, in terms of blaxploitation, I'm not seeing. I mean, if you're talking about blaxploitation, we're talking about like Posse from.
That's not blaxploitation.
Okay, so what? So, clearly my definitions are off. Explain to me, oh dear professor.
What is it? Black
Mario Van Peebles.
The Melvin Van Peebles, Sweetback Badass Song, where the black person takes action, handles Shaft, Superfly. That's all of the Hammer movies. All of the, not the Christopher.
The Bill Cosby movies.
Not the Bill. That's not black exploitation.
That's not black exploitation. Oh my God.
No, they did something they did humor. And also just note, in that period in the 70s, people weren't really believing that humor was going to work as far as black movies, and then it hit big, and now we do more black humor than anything else. But that's besides the point. Let's get back to this. So my first point is still holding, that he should not have a white savior, that the fact that Schultz should not be, and if you're going to introduce a Schultz, he has to turn on Django. They would have been a good, interesting point if Schultz he's too good to be true. But that's besides the point. If you want to keep Schultz in there, there's got to be some
Schultz as an element is necessary because it shows us how Django learns his trade.
No, that's not how black exploitations work. It's not how Westerns work.
Okay, let's continue.
I don't need someone to... No, I'm saying, as far as movies go, when we see Clint Eastwood, we don't get the backstory to learn how he learned how to shoot the gun or this, that. We're just trying to say, how could he survive 2 seconds without being killed by a whole gang of people coming and attacking? And the people didn't have to put on white masks. They could just back in that period, they just gather all the white people in the neighborhood and they're like, let's just get this guy. They wouldn't go listen to a paper, what? wait, we'll get them right now. Because that's what was happening to the white abolitionists. They're at home writing these papers, and people are coming to the door like, is he in there? Like they're dragging him, trying to kill him like that way. So it's not a thing of let's be the Klan, because you didn't need to hide. You're not going to tell, you're like, we got to get this out of here. We got to get this Negro out of here. So come on. I can't. We're talking about the movie here. It's a romantic aspect, so we don't ask why Clint Eastwood, just because we had the slave trade period, we need to decide that this is like, what's it, the Legend of Nigga Charlie, right? That's another power story. It's the name of the movie. Sorry, I'll have the picture up. But at the same time, this is what it is. So we're going to my second point, right?
Yes.
Second point is that this is a love story, but it does not have any sex or romance in there. There's a romantic element, but there's no consummation of the relationship. That takes away from the black exploitation part of the movie. Shaft.
Okay, all right. I can see elements of that.
You're not gonna let me curse on here. I gotta go to the Shaft part. With Shaft with the white girl, and the white girl comes, it's like, you're good in bed, but you're afterwards. And then she says, do it. And he said, can you get this? He asked the white girl to get us something. Do it yourself. I gotta bleep all this stuff out. I gotta work harder than myself. But that's the whole point. He has this girlfriend. He sleeps with white girls.
I know, but that's all that trope. I know, but that's the black exploitation.
He's adding not just being someone who's a helper, someone who's a good friend to the white person. It's a person who's strong, like any lead of a white film, and sexually active. Like saying he's not asexual. That's what they're trying to say, right?
Got it.
And the movies work. They sold well, they overproduced them, and then the whole thing fell apart.
So but in Wild Wild West, we have him being sexually active, right?
In the beginning, yes.
And
so that's a point for them. That's the point I gave them.
And so, but in Django Unchained, we don't have them.
We have a love story,
but
so it takes away from the exploitation part.
But I could have sworn there was an element where they do insinuate that there was something going on.
No, they meet, they have the connection, they hint that they're going to get together, and then the guy, the Candyland, Leonardo DiCaprio blows up everything. He figures out the plot.
Right.
He blows everything up, and he has a scene where he insults the brain of the black person, saying there's these nods and how the head is shaped. This is where he'll be subservient, and this, that, and the other. And this is why Django needs to kill Leonardo DiCaprio, because he's the top guy. As a black exploitation character, you have to take that guy out. But he didn't do that. Schultz is the one that's struggling with Jamie being hard to the Mendigo fighters, and this, that, and the other. So when we get to the point that I wanted, which is Django versus Leo, with Jamie Foxx versus Leo, we got Schultz versus Leo, and it was like they took and this is my opinion. I don't have any proof. I think this is why, because remember, Will was up for Django. So I think Will Smith was up for Django. So I think that Will maybe said no because, hey, I'm the lead guy. Why do I need a savior? And how does he get to shoot Leonardo DiCaprio? I need to shoot Leonardo DiCaprio. He's like, no, this is my script. I'm the guy. And they're in the room, no, I'm the guy. All right, we'll work on something else later. See ya.
Okay.
So that's a big issue for me.
I don't know
in the
if
movie.
Will Smith would have been doing that. Do you think so?
He was up for it.
I know he was up for it.
He was up before Jamie. And they said that he wanted he asked for certain things in the script. And they said no, and they moved on. So that said,
point two.
I came out of the movie being okay with it, but then that started to creep up on me, like saying, oh. But then he gets to kill the house Negro and Sam Jackson, and he gets to kill the underlings, and he gets to kill the wife. So it's like all this. And of course, every time they have like a sister, she's sort of not someone you're interested in. She's just like she's a magical white woman that doesn't look magical, that sort of thing. So you gotta play these things up. The black exploitation, they're gonna throw in the white person in there. They're not gonna say we're just gonna get some ordinary thing, plain Jane there. All right. So those are the two major points that I have issue with. So I can't say that Wild West is better, but as far as black exploitation goes, because those movies, as far as structure and story, weren't necessarily that strong. Because if you watch Sweetback's Badass Song, it's just basically him walking through, walking through hurdles the entire movie and knocking them all over. That's the whole movie. He doesn't say anything. He gets to sleep with a woman when he's a little baby, or he's a teenager. So it's like just him walking a straight road, beating everything up like a bulldozer. And that's the movie. That's the whole movie.
But I mean, so overall, so what? One point for each of them, or what do you give?
2 points away, 2 points away for Django, maybe 3 points away for Django, and 1 major point off of Wild Wild West. No, 2 major points off of that because it's a bad movie, and he didn't get Salma Hayek. You got to factor in this thing.
But then using that logic, then he didn't get Kerry Washington. What's her name? Broomhill.
That's the other issue. Those 3.
So I'm saying they're practically on par then. If you take away that point too, so they're
no, I get that means I took away a point for him having a white savior. I took away a point for the white savior killing Leonardo DiCaprio.
The arch enemy.
The no sex with Django, and those are the 3 major points. I already had that in there.
Okay, and so for Wild Wild West?
Wild Wild West, I gave it a point because he had sex in the early part of the movie, and then I took away a point.
He had no white savior.
He didn't have a white savior, so that gives, he's to the good. So as far as black exploitation goes, this is the black exploitation part of, basically, sorry, I got this from my brother. He liked all those movies, and somehow it just got into my brain, so I have my own black exploitation character, Lucifer Black, that's going to come out very soon. I'll play you a little teaser that I have at the end of this when I was in college that I put together with a friend of mine. But I think you had to, when he's done, Quentin Tarantino did a gorgeous film. The thing that, be honest, I mean, I know people love it. I think it was Dick Gregory, he enjoyed it. A ton of people like this movie. It's an enjoyable movie. The thing that I really liked was when Quentin plays like a slave owner. And he's bought all of the Mandingo warriors, so he's driving them off. And then Django frees those guys. And there's one Mandingo warrior that doesn't say anything, but he just has the greatest face in the movie. And he has all the struggle in his face. And his struggle is with Jamie Foxx, because he wants to kill Jamie worse than any of the white people there. And he's like, because he's supposed to be like a Mandingo trainer. And he's like just terrible to all the Mandingo warriors. And then Jamie then frees them, and he has the slightest smirk. And it's like one of the best bit characters ever. So for that one character, it might win Django. We might have to, because I'm going to have a picture of this guy, and he's one of the most amazing actors. He regretfully played a drug dealer in the Punisher movie, the laundromat scene. That sort of thing. He's a bit part in there, but he gets beat up. But this guy has the greatest face ever, and he stole the movie for me. He brought me back into the movie, But the amazing part of the movie, the last thing I'll say is when they have the house Negroes put together the servants. They put together the table. That's a very well done scene. Kerry Washington in the heat box with the water. I was like, oh my God, I just was lost. And so I think they had, because Schultz is too good to be true, I think it would have been fun if Schultz sort of turns on Django and then he gets to kill 2 white guys. And that's a black exploitation film. We have fun with this.
I mean, I guess if you're using the model of the black exploitation film, then you would have to also include that he would have had sex with some prostitute before he got to Kerry Washington Broomhilda too, right? I mean, because it wouldn't have just been one woman.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
He has needs. The point of it is that the point of why they added that, because now people go into the sexuals. It's not about that. Is that in movies before that, they were, black characters were asexual. They were helpers, and then slowly in the 70s they started to. You see the movies that came out after that. When you had a black friend, they would have someone for the character to be interested in. They stopped saying, well, we don't want to, this will weird out the white. And it's still, there are notes that people get not put in there, but they were like, we can't just have these guys be asexual. That they have no interests. They will, they'll
but
hold.
it's not no interest. It's hyper interest.
It's not.
It seems sometimes that's how they're portrayed, particularly in those movies.
The actors in the movie were like, that's what Fred Williamson said. I'm the lead. I get to sleep with all the girls. I get to kill everybody. That's what I think. Cal said that in one of our shows. So it's like, if you factor that in, the actors are like, this is what the white character's doing. They're not factoring in, okay, well, we got the history of black. Like, no, this is what I'm like. They were, know.
Again, I go back to James West, the TV show. I know you didn't watch it, but he was doing the same thing. He was sleeping with all the girls. He was killing all the bad guys. You know what I'm trying to say? So, I don't know.
That's the whole point of black exploitation. They watched regular films, and then when it got to us, we were the secondary. And it's like, no, we're putting the black person as the lead.
But just to play devil's advocate, how does that make it different as a black exploitation? If you're using basically the character of 007, he sleeps with all the women,
has
he's
no
hypersexual,
history. Yes.
He has no history,
yes.
The way he was written initially, and he is killing the bad guys and saving the world.
How many James Bond films are there?
Just quite a bit.
So that means that it works.
The formula works.
So that's the whole point. Being cynical of it is saying that there's more interest.
But is it black exploitation? I mean, it was just done by, it was because it was done by black
No,
actors
it's
and black actors. But I'm saying it's still the same template that you use for and it was a big thing in the 1980s when they had these these action heroes, and the same thing with.
You mean the 70s?
Yeah, it did the 70s and the westerns in the 50s and the 60s. So I mean, this is not just necessarily limited just to black.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
It's just a model that they've then called black exploitation because they have black faces on it.
It shouldn't be considered. I mean, because as it went on, the movies got cheaper, and that's when the truly exploitive. Because you have Gordon Parks did Shaft, and I think his son did Superfly. So you have, as far as filmmakers, some people there, and then, it's one of the things that you have to remember is that you're right. This is what Hollywood movies are. But they came up with a term that also led to it all falling apart, saying this is, and then it also got cheaper. So as you get cheaper, then it's like, oh, they're just exploiting us. When, people had points, like Fred Williamson making his own movies, leading to making and becoming better filmmakers. Where I think he did a movie, I haven't seen it, but he did a movie with, where he was sort of the foil. He was the everyman, and Richard Pryor is sort of the guy who gets to do everything, and Fred Williamson's the one who's falling on his face, having to fix everything. So this is going from your Hollywood to becoming better filmmakers is the natural progression of doing the fun stuff. Or even Kevin Smith, where the guys all talk about sex all the time, and then slowly you might mature into a regular filmmaker. You turn from action to all the stuff that who's that guy did? That Steven Spielberg. You do Jaws, and then you move on, and he's done a ton of movies. That's a powerful film. So I don't want to get, you're right in saying it's just a term they use for those black films. And there's nothing wrong with those films, especially the early ones, but they just denigrated as they went along. But they made a lot of money for Hollywood, helped Hollywood out when it needed it. Then movies got more graphic, and it got to the thing of, oh, we want to see this in movies. We want to see action. We want to see that. Oh, the Asian movies have this thing too. And they were cheap movies too. The whole Grindhouse stuff are cheap.
The Shaw Brothers.
That stuff. So it's like you have these like not always cheaply made, but real graphic stuff. So it's just a term that was used that got people to finally get away from it, when hopefully they would have been allowed to keep making movies and then become, better filmmakers like everyone does. So, I mean, it's just, I don't want to get off the term because everyone knows Foxy Brown, knows Shaft, Fred Williamson, all three Hardway,
Biggie Smalls,
all that stuff. So it's like you're going right to the. Why are you gonna go? Yeah, I was definitely a fan of those movies. So You're not taking those away from me. So we solved it. Too many points off for not hitting the marks of the black exploitation motifs and conventions, or even the Western convention, because Clint Eastwood doesn't have a trainer. He just comes in, he knows what he does. The original Django walks in with a coffin with him. He don't have nobody. If he had someone, the trainer's in the coffin. It's done. Sorry, Schultz. Too good to be true, and you mess up the whole black decision.
All right, so I understand your point there, but I would say of the two movies, I think Django Unchained was a much more entertaining film.
Maybe so.
Okay.
But
Right, so
there's also the scene, the last day, there's also the scene with Salma Hayek on the train. Do you remember that scene?
yes, I do remember that.
So
scene.
we don't have to say anything about it, but that kind of pushes up the Wild Wild West, doesn't it? Have you watched how many times?
I'll never forget that snake train. that just killed it. So
I'm saying before the little bit of nudity, the front shot of Salma Hayek.
I wasn't talking about. I'm talking about the doggone steampunk elements.
That was that.
train,
Yeah, that was very
like,
bad. That was very bad.
Listen, so ladies and gentlemen, we've listened to Petey, and he made some pretty good points on his decision. But
This is what happens when I'm in control.
check out
These are the topics we're going to be dealing with. Write in. I know you're out there.
check out the movies yourself and tell us what you think. Spinner Rack out.
Out.